Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. So in this lesson we're going to be taking a look at the alamat al-fi'l. In this lesson we want to be able to take a look at the signs that a word is a verb, and more particularly we want to understand a couple of important things about the verb. So we want to be able to understand is the verb madin or mudari'? Is it a past tense verb or is it a present tense verb? And if so, what are the signs that indicate that? We also want to know something about its bina, or it is mubni ala ma. Right? What is it constructed upon? So we want to know, is it mufrad, muthanna, aw jama'? In other words, is it singular, dual, or plural? And for the time being, we're going to actually kind of skip the dual, because in Arabic, plurality is broken up into these three areas: singular, dual, meaning the two, and then the plural. And we'll come back to the dual in a little bit. And then is it mudhakkar or mu'annath? Is it masculine or is it feminine? And then we also want to know about, is it the voice of the mutakallim, first person? Is it the mukhatib? Is it the second person, the one you're having a khutbah with, if you want to think of it that way? You know, khitab, the one that you are discussing something with, second person. Or is it the ghaib? Is it the one who is absent, or third person? So these will be the important things that we're going to want to look at. So as you can see here, I've laid out our 4 columns. And the first column here on the right, because obviously Arabic is going to go from right to left, we have the word dama'ir. Dama'ir is just simply the plural of damir. Damir. Damir is pronoun, and the plural is dama'ir. So when the voicing is the mutakallim, that means that it is in the voice of ana, or first person. And so the damir would be ana. If it is mufrad, then it stays ana, and then if it is the jama', it is nahnu. And this is how we'll go down the list. So for the mukhatib, the second person, because this is the mukhatib, you can think of the mukhatib is man khataba, or man tukhatibu ma'a, aw ma'aha. Right? The voicing here of mukhatib, this is the voicing because it is one that khataba. There is some khitab or khutbah. You're probably more familiar with like the khutbah of Jum'ah. So khataba, khitab, it's a root and a meaning associated with discourse. So that's why we call it anta. Anta. And then for the jama', antum. Antum. And also, because these will be, as we said, we want to know the mudhakkar, and we also want to know the mu'annath. We want to know the masculine and the feminine. So the anta is the mudhakkar, it's the masculine, and antum is the plural of the masculine, of the mukhatib, of the second person. But we also have a mu'annath for this voicing. We have a feminine, anti, and antunna. You'll notice here though, I'm writing all of these without any of the tashkīl, because that's one of the objectives in our class, is to eventually develop the ability to read without the tashkīl. So you will notice For the khatib and the khatiba, let's add our khatiba. For the khatiba, right, for the second person feminine, fi sighat al-mufrad, right, in the voicing, in the second person voicing, if you look at how anta and anti are written without any vowelings, they look exactly the same, right? Anta and anti are written the same. They only look different in the third person voicing, in the jama', which is antum and antunna. There's a shadda on the noon and a fatha, so antunna. Now we have our ghaib and our ghaiba, as you can guess. So now we have our third person. We have our, for this purpose, our mufrad and al-jama', right? So we have our singular and our third person plural. So the ghaib is going to be the mudhakkar, and the ghaiba will be the mu'annath with the ta'un marbuta. We've talked about ta'un marbuta looking like that with the two dots, or when connected from the right, it has two dots like that. I also kind of like to write mine, just kind of with a line over, or like that. So, for this, we have huwa and hiya, right? We have huwa and hiya. For the plural, it's going to be hum and hunna. Look between the ghaiba and the mukhatiba. Look between the third person feminine and the second person feminine. Notice that they both end with a noon with a shadda and a fatha for the vowel. That's important for us to kind of pick up on that pattern. Now, what happens though? Let's take our root of kaf, ba, and ta. Kaf, ba, and ta. And inshallah, it is what? Mabani ala al-mufrad, al-mudhakkar, wa madin. So we're going to make it what? Past tense and third person and singular. And so that's going to give us kataba. Just for this one purpose here, briefly, kataba. Kataba. The literal meaning of this is he wrote. But now let's look at how this verb can be written in ana, anta, anti, and here. So let's see what this looks like when we now make this in the voicing of ana is going to be what? Katabtu. Katabtu. Right? So just briefly, katabtu. That's what it's going to look like. Katabtu. But when we remove the vowelings, that's what it looks like. Now let's render it for anta. That's going to be what? Katabta. That's going to be katabta. If we remove the tashkīl again, the ḥarakāt, it looks exactly the same as anta. Now, for the mukhatibah, the second person feminine, katabti. Katabti, right? Katabti. But again, we remove them. It looks the same as the two before, and you can probably guess, right? For the غائبة, it's going to be كتبت with a sukun on the end. كتبت. And so when we remove the ḥarakāt, these all essentially look exactly the same for these four examples. كتبت, كتبت, كتبتي, وكتبت. في المتكلم ماضٍ, وفي مخاطب ماضٍ, وفي مخاطبة ماضٍ, وفي غائبة ماضٍ. So for whether it's first person, both second person masculine and feminine, and then third person feminine past tense, they all look exactly the same. So you might say, well, great, this is impossible. How can I possibly know if I don't have the vowel markings? How could I possibly know which one it is? And so the answer is going to be siyaq. Siyaq means context. So context is going to tell you when and how to determine what the voicing will be. And being able to understand the context is something that will come through experience. But that's why this class is focused on reading. So I am going to, as a follow-up to this lesson, I will give you a number of exercises, short sentences or very short paragraphs in which we're going to read that will give you an example, and it will be, you'll have in the beginning an example sentence that will demonstrate each. Then we'll have a more complicated paragraph that will have examples of maybe 2 or 3 or perhaps all 4 kind of interspersed throughout. You will then be able to be guided by the context of what nouns are present. Because obviously if we have verbs, right, if we have af'al, then we have to have a fa'il. If we have a verb, we have to have an actor, somebody doing the action, even if that actor is implied or explicit. And so something and someone has to be doing the action, and something or someone has to be receiving the action, whether that is indirect or direct. And so those are, when you look at the big picture, that's what will help you. So as I said, if you walk into a room and there's a whiteboard there, and then somebody just happens to write on the board the following, del, ra, sin, and ta, and there's no vowelings there, then yes, if it's just simply one word, then you would be forced to, essentially guess. But this is not practical. These are not real life instances in which you'll be reading where there's just one word on a page. And so again, you will have something like, you might have in the same instance, you might have either right, darasa and then ar-risala. So you might say, well, perhaps it's this, darasta ar-risala. And of course, if it's this, it would be what? You studied the letter. But then we would have to have some further context of which you are talking with somebody and there's something going on about a letter, right? So again, just as it's unlikely that you will encounter one word in a page or one word on a whiteboard, you're probably not also going to encounter just 2 words, right? There will be words in a paragraph, in sentences, and they will help to guide you. And so that's the area that we're going to be focusing on, so that we can know what the alama, the signs of the vowel.